Kunja Bihari Bolo Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamunatira Vanachadi Jamunatira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Hari Vedakacharya Astatarasatasi Simad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaur Premanandi. Something's wrong. In the past, when I would click on sleep, when I opened back up again, it would open up the same, everything that was saved across the bottom would be saved across the bottom. And now when I put it on sleep, when I open it up, it starts all over again. I hope you don't have to leave. Yeah, but not right now. Okay, so I have to now find the program. Whoops. Govinda. What are you suggesting the number might be?
46.
46? 46?
Yeah.
Okay. That's where it's supposed to be. You know, something's wrong with this whole system, because where we ended up was I found text 46, but we ended up I was reading from Garga Samhita. Remember? And it ended up Kamsa asked his minister what's going on, and he said, "Get Baka, he's the best," and that's where he ended up. Get Baka, but it's not here. And when I was preparing for the class, it was there, and now it's not here. Gosh, what's going on? Oh, okay, it's text 45. Text 45. Okay, text 45. So we're reading, it's the chapter is Krishna's childhood pastimes. And Krishna has shifted from Gokula to Vrindavan forest. Later he'll go to Nandagram, so it's 3 different places during his childhood. So that in his childhood he's now 3 years old, 3 to 4 years old. And they began herding the calves. There was some very interesting description of Krishna and Balaram were really attracted to the cows. So they would go out with Nanda Maharaj and little boy, 3-year-old boys, and big cows. So, but they just were so attracted, and this and that fun. Finally, it was decided you can take care of the calves, but you have to come back for lunch. And sometimes, so we're going to hear, sometimes they didn't come back for lunch. So, and during that period, so there's the boys in the forest playing like they're ordinary children, although he's the personality of Godhead, and they did this and that and the other thing and the other thing. And then the calf demon came. Kamsa sent a demon that had the capacity to change shapes. He assumed the form of a calf. Krishna detected it right away. He pointed it out to Balaram, and Balaram said, "Yeah." And anyway, so then he took. He was very, very clever. He was scratching underneath the chin of all the calves, and they were going moo, and they really liked it. And so then the calf demon figured out, now's my chance. So he came up to Krishna, and Krishna went quickly behind, grabbed him by the hind legs and his tail, whirled him around. His body became the huge demon instead of the shape-changing calf. And Krishna threw him up on top of a kapita tree, and the kapita fruits came down so they could play with the kapita fruits. And the boys went, fantastic, let's have lunch. And so, after the killing of the demon, Krishna and Balaram finished their breakfast in the morning, and while continuing to take care of the calves, they wandered here and there. Krishna and Balaram, the Supreme Personalities of Godhead, who maintained the entire creation, now took charge of the calves, as if cowherd boys. Purport. This is Srila Prabhupada. Pritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam, Bhagavad Gita 4.8. Krishna's daily business here, in this material world, daily business, was to kill the Duskritis. This did not hamper his daily affairs, for it was routine work. While he tended the calves on the bank of the river Yamuna, 2 or 3 incidents took place every day. And although these were serious, killing the demons one after another appeared to be his daily routine work. Main business was having fun. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, the 2 chief protectors of all people became that day the protector of the calves. Taking breakfast, they played while tending the calves. Jiva Goswami writes, though the 2 boys were the chief protectors of all people, they became protectors of the calves. This shows their great affection for their devotees. Becoming protectors of calves, they also became protectors of all people, since they protected the Devatas by killing the demon. They took their breakfast. Since they had greater age and strength than previously, they herded the calves the whole day, going to a place at a greater distance than usual. They would herd the calves all day, since the cows would return to Braja in the evening and wait for their calves. And then this commentary from Brihat Bhagavatamrita. That's a book by Sanatan Goswami, and he's discussing this pastime. To have lunch there on the broad, attractive bank of the Yamuna, Krishna seated his elder brother in the middle of the cowherd boys, who sat around them in concentric circles. Commentary. Earlier, the boys all had their breakfast, but now it was time for lunch. We can understand from descriptions in the 10th canto that they ate breakfast sometimes in the forest and sometimes at home. And reference here is to a verse in this chapter, chapter 11, text 45. That's our verse. After Krishna and Balaram finished their breakfast in the morning, they went to take care of the calves and wandered here and there. Krishna and Balaram, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who maintained the entire creation, now took charge of the calves, as if cowherd boys. And then another verse from the next chapter, chapter 12. O king, one day Krishna decided to take his breakfast as a picnic in the forest. So sometimes at home and sometimes out on the road. Having risen early in the morning, he blew his bugle made of horn and woke up all the cowherd boys and calves with its beautiful sound. Then Krishna and the boys, keeping their respective groups of calves before them, proceeded from Brajabhumi to the forest. So that's text 45. Here's 46, translation. One day, all the boys, including Krishna and Balaram, each boy taking his own group of calves, brought the calves to a reservoir of water, desiring to allow them to drink. After the animals drank water, the boys drank water there also. Jiva Goswami is the only commentary. He writes, now the killing of Baka will be described. The boys were all amazed on seeing the demon at the same time. All the boys, including Krishna, went to the pond to have the cows, but it's calves, drink water. The pond was a huge body of water east of Nandishwara. It is well known that near that place was the dwelling place of Baka. So when they first moved to Vrindavan, there's a very extensive commentary on where are different things in Vrindavan. Okay, so here's Vrindavan, forest. And due south, some number of yojanas, is Mathura. Due west of Mathura is Govardhan. And very far north of Govardhan is Varsana, and up much further is Nandagram or Nandishwara. Over along the east side, that's the river Jamuna. On the east of the river Jamuna is Gokul. And then there's another place, Kaliagat, that's up kind of northeast of. So the dimension is 16 miles by 8 miles. It's in yojanas, one yojana by 2 yojanas. So they're already going way up there to Nandishwara. That's where that is describing. And there's a huge, large body of water east of Nandishwara, and it was well known that near that place was the dwelling place of Baka. Interesting, I find interesting. Baka was at the service of Kamsa, but he didn't live in Mathura. He lived in Braja. And he didn't always show his demon feature, but that's where he lived. Because earlier there was I sent a letter to Bhanu Swami to find out when they were over in Gokul, deciding where to move next. They decided Vrindavan forest to be good because they didn't want to go all the way back to Nandishwar, because it was known that Arishta resided there. So I asked Bhanu Swami, how is it that Arishta resided there? He said maybe he resided there. And Baka here specifically, he resided there. Okay, text 47. Right by the reservoir, the boys saw a gigantic body resembling a mountain peak, broken and struck down by a thunderbolt. They were afraid, even to see such a huge living being. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, the demon looked like the pinnacle of a mountain cut off by a lightning bolt. Jiva Goswami writes, they saw a huge creature. It remained there intently like a crane in one place. It appeared like the summit of a mountain which had toppled over, since it was white in color. Though huge in form, it had fallen far away from the mountain because of being struck by a lightning bolt. Sanatana Goswami writes, they saw a huge creature, Maha Sattvam. It remained there intently like a crane in one place. It appeared like the summit of a mountain which had toppled over since it was white in color. Though huge in form, it had fallen far away from the mountain because of being struck by a thunderbolt. This suggests the hardness of the demon's body. He had remained there at all times in that crane body. He came there at that time because of his evil intentions. They became frightened because they remembered about the predictions of future calamities for the devotees. Out of great affection, they feared for the safety of Krishna on seeing the evil creature, because they were young boys, friends, who took Krishna as their life and soul. Krishna and all of them acted as if frightened, for it is said, quote, in the 4 chapters later, chapter 15, they cried out of fear, as if in fear of tigers and lions. Krishna also became afraid. All others, according to the pastimes, became frightened. So it's a transcendental frightened. Text 48. The great-bodied demon was named Bakasura. He had assumed the body of a duck with a very sharp beak. Having come there, he immediately swallowed Krishna. Jiva Goswami. The demon was famous as Baka. It was huge in body and in cruelty, with the form of a crane or duck. This form was permanent for the demon. In other words, it wasn't a shape-changing kind of thing. That was his form. Though this was so, and though he had a very sharp beak, which was very strong to do his evil work, he could just get Krishna in his mouth, but he could do nothing more than that. Couldn't swallow him. This was the will of Krishna, whose name means, quote, he who is famous as the great ocean of variegated, inconceivable pastimes. And text 49. Krishnam Mahabaka Grastam. When Balaram and the other boys saw that Krishna had been devoured by the gigantic duck or crane, they immediately became almost unconscious, like senses without life. Purport. Although Balaram can do everything because of intense affection for his brother, he was momentarily bewildered. Prabhupada writes, a similar thing is stated to have happened in connection with Rukmini Harana, the kidnapping of Rukmini. When Krishna, after kidnapping Rukmini, was attacked by all the kings, Rukmini was momentarily bewildered until the Lord, Rukmini was momentarily bewildered until the Lord took the proper steps. Okay, so there's several references to this in our Acharya's commentaries. She felt bewildered after her kidnapping. Balaram felt bewildered, although he knew Krishna is all-powerful. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, Balaram and the other cowherd boys became unconscious. Though Balaram could have killed the Asura, his response of fainting is because of brotherly affection. In the stealing of Rukmini, Balaram displayed his brotherly affection by protecting Krishna. Just as sugar candy tastes bitter to the tongue for the diseased person, though his touch was as cool as a tender blue lotus, it felt like fire on the palate of the Asura. That's Krishna. It felt like his mouth was burning. It was the fault of the Asura's palate, not Krishna. Bakasura spit Krishna out. He saw Krishna in an unharmed state. This hints that Krishna's body became hard. like a thunderbolt. And Jiva Goswami writes, the boys fainted. Though they knew the power of the Lord, and though Balaram had the power to immediately kill the evil Baka, Balaram and other boys suddenly became devoid of the powers of knowledge and action, Jnana and Kriya Shaktis, because they were overpowered by intense affection for Krishna. An example is given, they were like senses without prana. And then this verse from Rukmini's kidnapping is quoted. Balaram's affection can be seen when Krishna went to steal Rukmini. And the two verses, chapter 53, reads, when Balaram heard about these preparations of the inimical kings and how Krishna had set off alone to steal the bride, he feared that a fight would ensue. Immersed in affection for his brother, he hurried to Kundina with a mighty army consisting of infantry and soldiers, riding on elephants, horses, and chariots. He was ready for a fight. Oh no. Okay. Very strange. Okay. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, not on this verse, but upcoming verse, though Balaram could have easily killed the demon, this is this verse, he responded by fainting due to the intensity of brotherly affection. A similar thing happened during the Rukmini Harana Lila, the kidnapping of Rukmini, wherein Balaram displayed his brotherly affection by protecting Krishna from the attack of Jarasandha and other soldiers. So now we're going to have fun. We're going to Gopal Champu where we left off after the Vyomasura was, not Vyomasura, Vatsasura was killed. So here's where we ended. Kamsa said, yes, he is my best friend, Baka. Please send him here. Cruel Bakasura, protected by Kamsa, the tormentor of devotees, knowing that Krishna would come to the place called Bakasthala at the mountain of Nandishwara near lake, fixed himself there like a moving peak of a mountain. Krishna would think that he was a mountain with a gaping mouth resembling a cave. The cowherd boys, along with Krishna, grazed the calves, made them drink water, and, keeping them on the bank, drank water and bathed each other. Getting out of the water, they dressed themselves. They spread out to collect flowers to decorate themselves. While picking flowers, they saw Bakasura. The boys thought, is this a mountain in the distance? How has it come here? I see it has a peak. It looks as if Indra has struck it with anger with his thunderbolt. I think it is not a mountain, but some type of animal which must have done something wrong and is hanging its head. I think that it is a crane with a sharp beak and frightening appearance. Krishna said, it looked like a bird, but does not behave like a bird. It is some new type of crane which is sitting there. Is it some new type of crane which is sitting here like a mountain? Desiring to come closer to it, Krishna began to speak with deceptive words. As a baby snake, poisonous even to touch, approached a frog out of curiosity, lotus-eyed Krishna, surrounded by the boys holding raised sticks, approached the beak of the crane as if he did not know about the demon, though he actually knew. As a frog tries to swallow a young snake, Bakasura tried to swallow Krishna, but could not close his mouth. Oh! By this action, which was like dense darkness covering light, he caused great disturbance to Balaram and Sridham and the other coward boys. Just as Balaram, though knowing Krishna's strength, experienced pain when Krishna went to deliver Rukmini, he experienced pain on seeing Bakasura's actions, since prema includes within it all other emotions. Little science. Since Krishna was like a blazing fire in his throat, Bakasura spit him out quickly. Since Krishna would burn his insides, the demon understood that it would be impossible to swallow him. Like a fool, Bakasura tried to squeeze him with the tip of his beak. But just as Bhima killed Jarasandha, or just as a child uproots a bamboo tree, by his unlimited strength, Krishna destroyed Bakasura's beak using his hands. He bifurcated his beak and then killed him. When Bakasura swallowed Krishna, the boys and Balaram fainted. He didn't swallow, he just put him in his beak. When he spits out Krishna, they became conscious. Natural prema does not give regard to others. They're just spontaneous. It's not, I can't look like I'm fainting because it may not look good. So prema isn't bound by those things. The devatas and the boys became jubilant. When the killer of Vatsasura killed Bakasura, the devatas began dancing and playing musical instruments, picking jasmine flowers from the Nandana garden, that's Indra's garden in the heavenly realm. In great joy, they showered these flowers continuously. Observing Krishna's intention and looking on in surprise, they laughed at Bakasura. Oh, fool! When you tried to swallow me with your beak, I helped you. If all your limbs were torn apart, what fault do I have? That's the demigod speaking as if they're Krishna, laughing at Bakasura. When Krishna emerged from Baka, the boys immediately regained their life. How can one describe their tears, trembling, choked voices, and change of complexion? In other words, they were stimulated by ecstatic love. With great excitement, they immediately went to the lake and bathed. Leaving the place and taking the calves, they departed for their houses. Returning to their houses, they described the actions of Bakasura and how Krishna killed him. On hearing the two descriptions, that Vatsasura and Bakasura, the people first became frightened, with limbs burning, then moistening, as if devastation would take place. That's how devastation takes place. Dry, fire, and then deluge. Then their hairs stood on end. This reaction is not unsuitable since they began to relish the news, sweet as nectar. First disturbed, then joyful, they gathered together and went to Nanda's house. Weeping and seeing and touching Krishna's lotus face, they talked among themselves all about the demons killed, including Bakasura. Quote, "What pious actions have this child and his father performed in past lives? What offenses have the demons committed? For otherwise, why would Krishna kill them? Because Nanda and others, on appearing in this world, experience bliss, they are not described in terms of material existence. Shukadev has also said this. And now, Jiva Goswami is quoting a verse from this chapter 11, later in the chapter, text 58. In this way, the cowherd men, headed by Nanda Maharaj, enjoyed topics about the pastimes of Krishna and Balaram with great transcendental pleasure, and they could not even perceive material tribulations. And finally, when Ugrasena's sinful son Kamsa heard that Baka had been slain, he became greatly disturbed and began to think, they were all expert at deception and killing, but were all killed. Therefore, I think only Vyomasura is suitable for this job. He is the son of Sarva Maya, famous for his strength and highly esteemed. Thus, Kamsa, born from the hard womb of Padmavati, brought Vyomasura and engaged him in the job. Coming attractions. When I close the computer, just like now, I just did the sleep, and then I open it right away, then it goes back to the page. It goes back to the same settings. I hope. No, it's going back to start all over again. You want to get your gun out and shoot the thing? We've discussed this a little bit before, but because there's a little different audience here. In addition to what Prabhupada explained, Pritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Shaduskritam, that's what Krishna does, which he comes into this world for. Also, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one of our great acharyas, has explained there's something very special about the demons killed by Krishna in Braja. When Krishna performs his pastimes in Vrindavan, or Braja, there's two different categories. His eternal pastimes, just as they're in the spiritual realm, they're manifest here, in this realm, for the sight and vision of everybody. And there's he calls Naimittika, or translated as occasional pastimes. Those that don't take place in the spiritual realm, but they're here in this temporary realm. And the purpose of those, at least when there's different categories, like the birth pastime. There's no birth pastime in Krishna Loka, but here there's a birth pastime. And there's other categories like that. Dealing with demons, there's no demons in Krishna Loka, but there's the pastime, and the purpose of those pastimes, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, has a specific function. The pastime itself, the narrating of those pastimes, the hearing of those pastimes, there's special potency that Krishna is arranging for those that are not in the pure mode of pure goodness, to become freed from contaminations of heart. Specific demons are for specific anarthas in the heart. And then he goes through and describes those circumstances. And like, let's say, for the first one is putana. So false teaching, false teachers. Because she's presenting herself as a nurse, but she's come to kill. So it's that they're in this world, there are persons that come to say, I have spiritual knowledge to give you, and they give something else. So it's false teachings and false teachers. So Krishna helps the beginning person to overcome that obstacle on the path of bhakti. And then, etc., etc. Each of the demons killed represents something. So I can't remember what Baka and Bakasura represent. But there's potency, there's a purpose to the pastime in his worldly pastimes. And so killing of demons, it's part of his purpose of appearing. And, but the main, as mentioned, the main function is Krishna's exchanging of love with his devotees. And there's different devotees in different moods of love and different rasas, and even within, like say, amongst the cowherd boys, there are different qualities of that love amongst the cowherd boys, and so on. So he's perfectly reciprocating with the love of his devotees. In fact, that's what was said. One of the main reasons for his wanting to leave Gokula, back over there on the other side of the river Jamuna, to come to the Vrindavan forest, was there are many of his eternal associates there in the Vrindavan forest. And it's not just the cows and the cowherd boys, it's the trees and the birds and the peacocks and the thises and the thats. And he was giving his association to them and enlivening them. They're his eternal associates. So the very, very fortunate cowherd boys, we're going to hear some more about that in the evening as well as the morning session. They spend so much time each day with Krishna, at least during a certain portion of his childhood pastimes. Very, very fortunate. And Shukadeva Goswami, when he's narrating what they do together, he also says how amazing these young boys. Same thing happens with Mother Jasoda and Nanda. How amazing. They're exceptionally qualified. The intensity of their parental affection is just overwhelms them. They can't see divinity. They can only see our son. Even when they see it, they can't see it. They process it that way somehow by the strength of their love. So the glorification goes to the strength of the love of the residents of Vrindavan for Krishna. It's a very, very special group of devotees amongst all of his devotees. And the place attracts Krishna more than anything else. Like coming up, we discussed this chapter a while ago, about 2 months ago, when Lord Brahma, the most intelligent person in the whole universe, is offering prayers to Krishna. They're very elevated prayers, very beautiful prayers, but Krishna doesn't even say anything. Doesn't even say Hari Bol or anything. It's just, he's silent. And the answer given, he just wants to get back and finish lunch with the cowherd boys. He's less interested in the kind words and elevated words of learned persons praising him, as much as he wants to be with the sweetness of exchanges of love with the resident of Vrindavan. That's him. That's his attractive. He's more attracted to that. Not to say The verses that Brahma speaks, they're celebrated verses, often quoted verses by our acharyas over, decades, ages, because they're so wonderful. But it's not from Krishna's perspective. That's not the greatness that he is attracted to. He's attracted to the greatness, the intensity of the love of his devotees. So that's the main business. When it's with the cowherd boys, it's doing what boys do, having loving exchanges as boys will have with one another. Only they're super excellent because he's all-powerful, supreme. But they do very simple things. And then there's the divinity thing, and that serves one other purpose. We're going to hear about it in the morning. When he does something wonderful like this, it serves to intensify the Madhurya aspect. We're going to hear it's very extensively discussed. And it has to do with how intense their affection as friend or mother or gopi towards Krishna. The intensity is such, it just accelerates or amplifies the intensity of their loving relation. We'll say it negatively. If it weren't so strong, the other feature would be there, that when, like when Krishna showed Arjuna the universal form, the relationship of friend and friend got eclipsed. And Arjuna said, whoa, I've offended you, I've treated you like an ordinary, we've done this and that, and like just friends. But you're the Supreme Personality. So majesty and display of opulence has a tendency to diminish sweetness. But the residents of Vrindavan, their sweetness is so strong, it just serves to amplify the sweetness. They're very special personalities, and our acharyas point this out, in very expertly, with so many references, and we'll be hearing some more, but not tonight. Those are just some points. With the assistance of our commentaries, we can understand better about what's so superlative, special about Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes. Now, it may sound just like super fantastic and fairyland or something to some people. For the devotee, it's a display of Krishna's omnipotence simultaneously with something that's even greater than his omnipotence. If God is all-powerful, then there isn't something that he cannot do. If there's something he cannot do, then he's not all-powerful. So he does all-powerful things, and it's not fairy tale. But even greater than the most powerful thing is the attraction that he has for the sweetness of love of his devotees, and how those devotees, through that sweetness of their love, they control him. He dances when they say dance. That was from an earlier part of this chapter. When little childhood, he's just, starting to talk and this and that. So the gopis, the elders, Mother Jasoda's peers, they come to Mother Jasoda's home and they clap their hands and ask him to dance when they clap their hands and sing, and sometimes ask him to sing and say, we'll give you half a sweetmeat if you dance nicely. And he dances, and then he tumbles, and they pick him up and embrace him. It's like they control him, and he's controlled by their love, and he loves being controlled by their love more than the prayers of the personified Vedas. He loves that sweetness more. That's Vrindavan. Okay, so let's see if there's some discussion. what we've been doing is discussion in the room comes first, and then it gives time for people to send in whatever online questions, if there's some online people.
I have a lot of questions.
Uh-oh.
But I'll give. So we understand that because of the love of Mother Yashoda, Krishna is actually afraid of the stick in her hand.
Yeah.
But in this narration, you were referring to it as transcendently frightened. You know, I'm not sure if they were actually frightened from Bakasura, or
Why not? The explanation is within prema is all emotion. And it's an emotion that exhibits and then is withdrawn. It's an emotion within prema.
I'm referring to Krishna and Balaram's fear.
Yeah, of course. So what are they experiencing? They're experiencing love. They're with the cowherd boys, and they're being cowherd boys with the cowherd boys. And like the other example in this section, several times repeated, Balaram became, Krishna's in difficulty. Now he's omniscient, he's all powerful. So, but it's a feeling of love for Krishna. And Krishna has love for the cowherd boys. So, his omniscience seems to be covered by his feelings, and then his feelings are it's just very fluid. It's prema. The nature of prema. And Krishna experiences it. We say Krishna prema, that's, he's the object. But the object is also feeling prema. Why not? Feeling love for the cowherd boys and love for the gopis and love for the cows. He loves the cows.
Is Krishna afraid of Bakasura? That was the fear that I was...
Well, it's not exactly fear of Bakasura, if that's specifically your question. When the cowherd boys entered Aghasura's mouth, Krishna became stunned. Now the explanation is not, fear for himself, or even fear for their safety because he could protect them, but what they would undergo by not seeing Krishna, he knew what that would mean for them. They couldn't stand being without him for a moment. Or when he went to the bank of the Kaliyagat and saw the cows and the cowherd boys on the ground as if dead, he was stunned. So those emotions, now was he fearful of Bakasura is your question. Was he fearful of Bakasura or fearful of danger for the cowherd boys? Distinct from being fearful of the stick in Mother Jasoda's hand, because you can be fearful of Mother Jasoda, but you can't be fearful of Baka because she's the mother and Baka is the demon. It's a... You can go back and look and see if it says specifically what the object of the fear was attached to. Is it okay now? Gokula to the rescue once again. Goloka. I don't think it really matters. It's an emotion. And what stimulates the emotion can be this or that. But it's a transcendental emotion. Fear that Baka might harm the cowherd boys or something. Next.
I can wait.
Okay. Do you either? You have, okay.
I have a couple of questions.
Oh, good.
So the first one is, what does a personality like Brahma do to have the kind of relationship that Krishna has with, say, the residents of Vrindavan, because it seems like Brahma's form of worship, which was elevated prayers, don't seem to be all that attractive to Krishna.
Well, you want to know what's Brahma's relationship with Krishna?
Yes, and also as in terms of a thematic question, what I'm asking is, it seems like Brahma is so intelligent and is trying to utilize his intelligence to glorify.
We use what we have, right?
Right.
So that's what he's using.
But it seems like the quality of that relationship is limited.
Yes, and he recognizes it. So in his prayers, which Krishna doesn't respond to, in his prayers, he offers a prayer to Krishna. My greatest fortune would be to take birth in any species of life in Vrindavan, so that dust from the feet of the residents of Vrindavan can come and land on my head, even if it's a blade of grass. So with his intelligence, he's recognizing that's more exalted than anything that I have. I can build the universe. And that's a lot of knowledge to know how to build the universe, and power and so on. And is looked up to by all the controllers of the universe and all of those things. Compared to the residents of Vrindavan, they're the most exalted. My greatest fortune would be any kind of birth in any species, so dust from any of the residents of Vrindavan can land on my head. So that's intelligent. And there's those that have already, reached that stage. Although they can't build the universe. The cowherd boys are more intelligent, or they're in a special category. Well, not just the cowherd boys, all the residents of Vrindavan. They're very special beings. So that just puts it in perspective. Brahma may be worshipped, and Brahma may be this and that and the other thing, and full of knowledge, and the most learned person, etc.
That helps, Maharaj. Thank you. The second question I had was, I am confused by the attitude of the demons.
Of the
demons.
Oh.
Sorry?
Why?
On the one hand, they seem to understand that Krishna is very powerful because they're trying to kill him.
Yeah.
On the other hand, they think that they can trick Krishna by doing things like appearing as a calf or appearing as a mountain in the shape of a crane and whatnot. Like, they think they can trick him, but they also think he's very powerful. So.
Yeah, but it's the nature of demoniac mentality. It's described in Bhagavad Gita. I'm perfect, powerful, and happy, and I'm going to do more austerities and become more powerful and control everybody and get rid of everybody that's in my way. And it's part of demoniac mentality. And it's to pin it again. There's a degree of irrationality. It really doesn't make sense that they know Krishna is all very powerful, but they can trick him because they think they're more powerful, and their power can supersede Krishna's power, although he's powerful. I'm more powerful. Or I match myself against his power, see who wins. It's quite irrational. I agree.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Was there any pastime when Krishna killed a demon and he faked it like...
He fainted?
No, he faked it.
He fakes it?
He was not worried about the coward boys getting killed by the demons, but he was faking it.
He was faking it? For just pretending to be worried about the cowherd boys? That's what you mean? I can't think of one. But when he saw the cowherd boys lying by the side of the Kalia lake, he was stunned, which indicates he was worried about the well-being of the cowherd boys. So maybe there's an example. Now, it didn't last long. It's described. His feeling, that feeling, stunned feeling, oh, the cowherd boys, and oh, the cows who are so dear to him, they look dead. But he's omniscient. So because he's omniscient, they weren't dead. He knew they weren't dead. But there was that feeling. So maybe there's an example. How's that? Is that all right? Does that match what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay.
So I have one question.
Okay, what's that?
What does the word Bakasura mean?
What does it mean? Baka? Asura means a demon, and Baka means, it can mean either a crane, you know what a crane is, right? Or sometimes it's also translated as duck. You know what a duck is? Baka is a crane. Or even more specifically, a heron. So you know what those are types of birds. They have really long legs, and they stand in the water, and crane or heron. All right?
I have another question.
Okay, go ahead.
What does the word kamsa mean?
What it kamsa? Cruel. I think that's what it means. I'll check. You check. I think it means cruel. Kamsa. Okay. Well, he's still looking something up, so give it to your mother.
Guru Maharaj, you gave the example of Lord Brahma offering prayers. So how do we know that Krishna is accepting our prayers?
Oh, he's accepting our prayers. Because he's loving. That's how you know. What else?
There was a
It's not that he didn't accept Brahma's prayers. It's just he was eager to be with the cowherd boys. It's not that he didn't recognize, acknowledge, and appreciate. There was something else going on. He wanted to be with the cowherd boys. Go ahead.
There was a statement from Gopal Champu that the residents of Vrindavan could not even perceive material tribulations. Would you please elaborate on that?
Well, if you stub your toe, it's not like you don't feel that you stubbed your toe. If you're in Vrindavan or a resident of Vrindavan, so pain and emotion, etc. But it's not material. The emphasis goes to the word material. It's not a material tribulation. Everything is seen, felt, and experienced as one's relationship with Krishna. It's not material. It transforms everything to spiritual. Like, Mother Jasoda feeling anxious that Krishna was late coming home. So supposing you have some tribulation, your kids go somewhere, they're late coming home. Mother Jasoda didn't have material tribulation. Okay. Did you find the answer?
I looked at the dictionary.
Okay, we'll do some homework and get back to you. The meaning of the word kamsa. So we have online questions?
Yes, ma'am.
This is from Neeraj Bhatnagar. Does Krishna have children in Goloka? Although we are all children of Krishna, I have only heard devotee aspiring to be in Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, or Madhurya Rasa with respect to Krishna. Do devotees desire to see Krishna in a fatherly role?
Where they're the son and Krishna is the father. That's the question? Sure, Dwarka. Dwarka's in Krishna Loka. It's one of the divisions of Krishna Loka. And Krishna has children. That's it?
I have a question.
You have a question, okay.
It's very interesting that in the pastime of Bakasura, Balaram gets fearful when Krishna is
In the beak
in
of
the
the...
beak of Bakasura. But when Krishna was in the coils of Kalya,
He was laughing.
and you know, Nanda Maharaj was losing it, and Yashoda Mai lost consciousness. So what's the difference there?
It's variegatedness of love. It's spontaneous love. There's not like it triggers this and triggers that. It's just moved that way, so it moved that way. It was appropriate for the rasa, appropriate for the lila, when Krishna's in the coils, because Mother Yasoda is going to go jump in the poisonous lake, and he forcibly stopped her. That's just part of the lila. So she could do this and he could do that, and so sometimes and sometimes, just like that word kadachit, sometimes and sometimes. So there's variety in enjoyment, sometimes and sometimes.
Another question, Maharaj. Bhagavad Gita and Prabhupada quoted, one of the most quoted verses by Srila Prabhupada was Janma Karma Chame Divyam Yome
Evam yo veti tattvataha.
So to know the activities of Krishna, then one tyakta deham punarjanma. When we read the Srimad Bhagavatam as given to us, we see in these pastimes of Bakasura, it's like 3 verses, really short, crisp, and moves on. Yet when we read the commentaries of the Acharya, there's so much more detail, like you were reading from Gopal Champu. The intricacies of emotions and dynamics between Krishna and his devotees is this what the activities of Krishna spoken in that verse in chapter 4 Bhagavad Gita is referring to? I assume it's not just knowing the activity, what Krishna did, it's
knowing the transcendental nature of. And the transcendental nature in simple terms is there's no karma, there's no modes of nature, there's no touch of contamination. So, you can be, that's 101 and then 201 and 301 and 401 and graduates, there's deeper and deeper and deeper understandings of that which is transcendental. So this is relishing the topics kind of activity, and then it goes further and further and so on. In Priti Sandarbha, I was going through Priti Sandarbha commentaries for this evening, and I left a lot of them out because he was speaking about this particular verse is a stimulation of ecstatic love in this way, and that is this feature of that same verse is a stimulation of ecstatic love in that way. This is the udipan, this is the result of the udipan. So it's like going further magnification and further magnification. But, you go back to the pastime and everything is there. It's just ways of relishing and appreciating what's there. The potency for stimulation of ecstatic love is there, recognizing it in detail or not. It's transcendental in principle and effect, cause and effect. Okay?
This is from Amar Mataji. These demons are all mentioned as kings of different kingdoms in the Krishna book, and Kamsa made an alliance with them. How did they follow his orders? Why did they follow his orders as if they were his servants?
They looked up to him. He's more powerful than they are. So why does anybody follow anybody? They have qualities that you look up to and regard. Plus, at least the kings, not specifically necessarily these demons, but the kings that became followers of Kamsa, they were given a choice: either you become my follower or I'll kill you.
You address it, but Rupalas Prabhu asks, I missed to hear what kind of anartha is represented by Bakasura.
I don't recall.
I looked it up.
You looked it up.
It's duplicity, cunning, duplicity, deceptiveness, and false types of behaviors.
Okay. That's it.
That's it.
Yes. Back there.
Maharaj, I know this is a really elevated subject matter, and that's why I don't understand it. Would you please elaborate on a couple statements you made about prema includes within it all emotions, and
it's right in our Acharya's writing. It's not my statement, but go ahead.
And you also were expressing that prema is beyond being bound by things like, I can't faint, like in the case of Balaram. That was totally not clear.
I find it pretty simple. It's like, some Pluto decay. A great reservoir of water can fulfill all the purposes of small wells. So prema is the great reservoir, and within that great reservoir, it serves all purposes. So, don't be surprised when something comes out, because it's the reservoir. And so there's this emotion, and sometimes this emotion predominates, and what stimulates it is, Krishna's plan. And then this gets stimulated and that gets stimulated because he wants to have Balaram experience different emotions. So sometimes, like this question, the Kaliya Balaram and the Bakasura Balaram, it's two different. Krishna stimulating because he has love for Krishna, sometimes and sometimes. So it's a great reservoir from which everything is there, or within it which everything resides. Transcendental emotion is residing within it. Another way of saying the same thing is a metaphor that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur uses to compare the prema and the bhava stage. Bhava is a wave, and prema is where waves mix. It's when waves mix, it's this uncontrolled crescendo and cascading of waves mixing, one after the next, and then another one, and another one, and another one. That's prema. So within the prema ocean is so many waves. And it's just, how come it's this wave instead of that wave? It's just the ocean of prema. Premamritam bodhidi. And for the Krishna's giving satisfaction and happiness and loving exchange with different devotees in different ways. It doesn't require, cause. And there's the effect. Just variegated emotions.
Is it correct that conjugal rasa includes other rasas?
Which?
The conjugal rasa includes the other rasas, and does that?
It includes the features of, such as this predominant feature, that predominant feature. But it's not, I've never heard it described like you just described it. The rasa, the conjugal rasa includes all other rasas. I've never heard it described like that. Maybe that's a correct statement. I've never heard it described like that. Okay. We're done?
So the prema that we're referring to here is not the conjugal rasa.
Prema means prema.
And
love.
It could be in any rasa.
Prema means prema. Balaram had prema. And the cowherd boys have prema. And, the peacocks have prema. The cows have prema. Prema bhakti. And then there's varieties. Okay. Prabhupada ki? Jai.